Hello, everybody. I am yet again Price McKinney, simply put. And as always, I want to thank you for tuning in and listening. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, simply put with Price McKinney. Go to YouTube, like, subscribe, watch a video, leave a comment. Simply put podcast with Price McKinney. All right. So this 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 particular video is going to be it's hinged literally from a conversation I had, and I wrestled because I wanted to go a whole different direction, but this conversation just it set on me. So want to hear it go. I had to, so I got to deal with it. Buddy of mine called me. I think it was last one day last week, and he was sharing with me, what was going on with him, and of course, I don't call names on here, but he was asking me, which was humbling to say the least. He was asking me about the situation he had, right? So his situation was he and his significant other wound up having a little bit of an issue, an ordeal, because both of them they had triggers, right? And I've talked about this before, but they had triggers. Something happened, and here's the thing: it wasn't major, wasn't anything major, but it turned and went from a small issue into a big ordeal because both of them had triggers, and as I'm talking to him, I'm starting to see, somewhat of the picture in its fullness. And what had happened was from the beginning of it, because it was a trigger for him that he didn't really realize was a trigger. The way he approached her, he went in cockeyed, right? And so she automatically kind of went defensive, um, and stood her ground. Now, it didn't turn into a fight or anything like that, but it did become somewhat of, they momentarily came to an impasse and had to take a timeout, which is great. Let me say this: the fact that he took accountability and was responsible enough. You know what? I need some added help with this. Kudos to that dude. Because as a man, more often than not, we feel like we have to bear the burden of fixing and problem solving just about everything. And it is okay if you don't know. That's how we learn. You have to ask questions. And regardless to how much you do know, you don't know everything. That's why I say in the video, at the end of my video all the time, I'm not an expert. I just know what I know, but I'm willing to learn. So the fact that he reached out and had some very logical, legitimate questions. We talked through it, and I was able to help him, and I felt really good about that. But so getting back to his approach, he didn't go at her right. He was slightly aggressive. Um, he didn't call her name, didn't cuss out, none of that. It wasn't none of that. But how he addressed it. So she responded, and within that, she wound up having the trigger. So both of them are pew pew, and they were trying to figure out how. Okay, what happened? How did it turn into this? And this is what I shared to him, and this is the title of this particular video: is then versus now. What I shared with him was, because he's somebody I've known for for a minute. Okay, I asked him. I said, "So, are you the same you that you were however long ago it was, right?" He was like, "No." And I asked him, "So how long has it been?" He told me, and then I said, "Well, how long have you known her?" Then he told me, and I said, "So let's do it this way." I said, "Are you the same person then that you are now?" He was like, "No." I said, so can you look back at the you that you were then and see growth, progression, maturity? You said, oh, yeah, absolutely. I said, so looking at her for as long as you've known her, do you see growth and progression in her? Is she the same person that she was whenever it was y'all met? I don't know what year it was and how long it's been. He was like, oh, God, yes, she's definitely changed and she's this. And I said, so hmm, why was that a trigger? And then I asked him, I said, so do you trust her? He said, oh, absolutely, hands down, no questions asked. I said, so if you trust her, then what is your issue? What is it that you're afraid of? Because if you trust her, then the fear of what's not even happened is because of you, something that's in you, not something that's because of her. So now, sir, let's deal with you. And we did. And so he talked a little bit more, and I said, so that's a trigger. And I said, dude, after listening to him, I said, I said, this is simply put, and it's very simple. You have a fear over something that didn't have nothing to do with her that happened 15, 20 years ago. I said, so why are you dealing with something way back then that has nothing to do with now? I said, why not deal with what's in front of you? He was like, wow. I said, dude, it's not rocket science, man. Deal with what's in front of you. If you trust her and she trusts you, y'all don't have an issue. Problem solved. Case closed, attorney dismissed. And he was like, dude, I didn't, bro, it's not rockets. You're afraid of something that's not even going to happen. You're afraid of something that is literally completely irrelevant. So why not just let that go and live the moment that you have in front of you? Be in the now. And so, in conclusion, I told him, I said, deal with the person that you have in front of you, and you deal with the you that's in front of you, sir. Deal with who you are now, not who you used to be, not what you used to do, not what you, none of that stuff. All that's irrelevant. All that's water under the bridge. Why are you merging all of that stuff into the relationship that you have now? Let that stuff go. Let it be what it is, and deal what's in front of you now. This is what we cannot keep doing, people. And this is why I tell people all the time, especially myself, work on you. Figure out what your triggers are. Figure out what your challenges are. Figure out what you need help with. Figure out how to make all of those things become better, so that while you're with your person or you trying to find that person, you don't have to deal with all of this extra stuff. Now, am I saying that that's going to make your relationship perfect? Absolutely not. Not even close. You're human. She's human. She's human. He's human. As long as we inhale and exhale, ain't none of us gonna be perfect. Not even close. Now, for those that say, "Well, ain't nothing wrong with me," God help you. That's all I'm gonna say about that. But we cannot continue holding people hostage to their past and even yours. We've got to let that go. Because we're at the age, when I say at the age, and I'm speaking more so late 30s, mid 50s, on up to 60. We're at the age where we have dealt with so much stuff, right? We've had trauma, we've had hurt, we've had betrayal. The list goes on. But there comes a point where, at what point are you able to inhale, exhale, breathe, and let that stuff go? If you got to go through counseling, if you got somebody that you can confide in that will help you through it, do whatever you need to do so that you can have a successful relationship with your person. Well, you're not, because more often than not, a lot of what we fight struggle, wrestle, argue, frustrated about and with that other person, more often than not, it, and I hate to say it this way, but it's just the truth. It doesn't even have anything to do with them. It's the stuff that we have inside of us that is unresolved, or stuff that we haven't dealt with. So is it more important for you to hang on to that stuff and protect your hurt, live in fear because it's safer for you? If it is, then you've got to get yourself some help. And it doesn't mean, please understand this, getting help does not mean that you're lesser than. It does not mean that you're crazy. It just means you're doing what's necessary to make you better, to help the other person become better, so that the two of you are better. That's it. So if you're still living the same way that you 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, however old you are, if you're still living and dealing with some of that same stuff then that you are now, you've got some work to do, my friend. You've got some work to do. And sometimes it takes being with that other person, because you may have been single for so long, you literally don't even know what's there. You don't know what's on the inside of you. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just you don't know until you know. And that's okay. But once you find out or figure it out or somebody points it out, then acknowledge it. And let's do what it takes to move forward. But don't keep holding people, even yourself, hostage to the stuff you did in the past or the stuff that somebody else did in the past. Deal with the person who they are right now in front of you. All right. So again, I'm Price McKinney. Simply put, I want to thank you for listening. I'm not an expert. I just know what I know. And I promise you, I'll see you soon.